Hey everybody, this is going to be a real quick one here today. You might have already seen the videos from G9 and Stilovsky talking about the new bow glitch that's been discovered. Similar to Chainsaw, this is essentially a tumble buff exploit where by swapping super quickly through your menu mid-animation, you can basically trick the game into applying an Ash of War from one weapon to another. Now, tumble buff glitches have existed in these games, including Elden Ring, forever, but they were never quite practical to pull off. This one, however, if you have any kind of muscle memory for hard swapping, is pretty easy to execute. The window for the swap is far more generous and forgiving than it was with Chainsaw. You don't need to be frame perfect with this. If you pay attention, you can actually visually see the window for it in the menu, and that makes it much easier to practice and sort of identify the timing that you need to aim for. It took me maybe 30 minutes of practicing to kind of get the inputs down and get relatively consistent with it. Now you might be asking, like, why would I put out a video sharing a basically a game-breaking exploit? And it's not because, I want people to start using this. Quite the opposite. It's more so because a lot of griefers and toxic players will start using this more. Inevitably, we're just going to start seeing it more and more. And there's always going to be people that do that. And despite what most people will tell you about invaders, we're not generally quick to use these exploits when we're fighting casuals or even other tryhards. These are usually reserved for situations where you're facing griefers or others who are already exploiting the game to ruin your fun. And I wanted to put this video out at the minimum to make people aware of the exploit in case you come across it, whether it's from an invader, again, which is not very likely, or more so toxic hosts, because it was only just discovered yesterday or sometime in the last few days. So some people are not going to know what's happening when it's used against them. And if you're like, you want to be able to perform this exploit just in case. I would rather not have to, but sometimes, again, you just have to fight fire with fire. The basic premise of this exploit, and you can see more of this in G9 and Stilovsky's videos, is to apply the Deathblight effect to the Ash of War on a bow. And because of the arrows we'll be using, which have a special hitbox, that area of effect is insanely large and is going to kill your target near instantly, which is why this is going to be so easy to abuse for those that want to abuse it, and why you should probably understand how it works. Now, I'm going to be demonstrating this on my level 150 pure strength build. The reason I call that out is the stat requirements for the Eclipse Shuttle, which is an essential element of this exploit, are rather demanding, especially if you are running an optimized meta setup. There's a dex requirement of 25 and a faith requirement of 30, and those minimums are going to be very difficult for most invaders to meet, just because it's a very odd distribution, but it is theoretically possible. So I'm going to show you how I got it set up for my offline practicing. In order to get our faith up, I'm running the Imp Head Helm and the Commoner's Garb, and then for our talismans, we're using the Two Fingers and the Prosthesis Wearer Heirlooms. That gets us 5 in faith and dexterity, and the America Source Seal to boost our faith even further. However, that only gets us to 22 out of the necessary 30 faith requirement, and then we haven't met the 25 dexterity yet either. So here's how we're going to get the rest of the way to those minimums. We're going to use our Physic equipped with the Faith Knot Crystal tier, which is going to boost, obviously, our Faith, Now, if you wanted to, you could also put on the dexterity tier, which does the same thing, but for your dexterity. However, I'm going to show how to do it without using both of your physics slots, just so that you could theoretically have something else a bit more useful in that second flask slot. But either way really works, we just need to meet those minimum stat requirements. And then the final ingredient for meeting those stat requirements is going to be the Grafted Blade, which not only gives you essentially an extended endure effect, but also boosts all your stats by 5. So with all those pieces, our talismans, our armor, our physic, and a weapon, we're actually able to meet our minimum requirements. You can already start to see why this is the biggest barrier to pulling this off, because you have to have all these specific elements equipped in order to even try this. But assuming you're able to get all of this set up mid-invasion, the next thing you're going to have to do is make sure you have the peak bone arrow, fletched or regular, it doesn't really matter, have that equipped. And then you're going to also want a bow. Any bow should work. And ultimately, any Ash of War is going to work with this. But in order to get the true bow glitch, you're going to want to have Rain of Arrows equipped on that bow. I don't think it works with great bows, as far as I know, so a short or medium bow should be what you're using here. But you're going to want to have that equipped in the first slot of your right hand. I put the Grafted Blade in the second one because it doesn't really matter. It's just to make practicing easier. And then in the first left-hand slot, you're going to put the Eclipse Shodel. And lastly, you're going to need a bolus equipped. Anywhere is fine. I've just got it on the hotbar here. But that is the last essential element to pulling this off. Okay, so now I'm going to go through the setup and steps here so you can just get the sequencing down. What you're going to do first, obviously, is boost your stats. So we do our physic, we do Grafted Blade, and then you're going to two-hand the Shodel in your left hand, crouch, consume a bolus, hold L2, which normally does this, but we don't want that. You're going to hold L2, start, X, down, square. And what that's going to do is it's going to obviously take the bow out of your left hand, hopefully while the animation for the Ash of War is queued and executing. So what it's going to do is apply the Shodel's Ash of War to the bow in your right hand. So this is a pretty straightforward exploit in terms of the inputs themselves. And again, this is not frame perfect like Chainsaw was. So it's a bit easier to practice. The thing is trying to obviously get the muscle memory down, and namely, you're going to want to train yourself to hold L2 at the proper point in the bolus animation. The rule of thumb seems to be basically hold L2 right when the bolus meets your character's mouth in the animation. It takes a little bit of training, obviously, to kind of get the visual timing down. It's a little bit easier if you practice while facing the screen like this, so that way you can see the animation a bit more clearly. So that's the trickiest thing in terms of the muscle memory for this exploit. Now, unlike Chainsaw, you do not need to hold L2 once you've initiated the exploit. All you need to do at that point is two-hand your bow and go ahead and use your Ash of War. And once you've done all that, essentially your Ash of War is going to be applying Deathblight continuously within a very large area of effect, essentially out to that tree from where I'm standing, and it's going to proc on your target more or less immediately. So now you can pretty easily see why this exploit is just so busted and why people are going to be tempted to abuse it in order to grief. I'm now going to show you a clip of me performing the bow glitch in full, and I'll slow down the portion where, like I was referring to before, you're able to see in your menu the window for the swap, which is what makes this a little easier than Chainsaw to practice repeatedly. So yeah, that's everything there is to say about the bow glitch at this point in time, at least to my awareness. The setup I was showing is just for offline practice. I'm sure some folks will figure out how to hyper optimize for this in the near future. It usually doesn't take long. You're going to be seeing more of this out there, just inevitably. That's what happens when these exploits get discovered, but hopefully you now at least understand it, and if you want to, you can start to practice for yourself, just in case you ever find the need to use it. So in the meantime, good luck, and I'll see you guys next time.